Good morning, friends. That is Monsanto, not the corporation, the mountain. Atop Monsanto, the mountain, is an incredible fort and boulders that really defy geological explanation in the current reading of things. Anyway, the sun is rising somewhere over there, and I guess it'll be up in about 15 minutes. I don't know if I'll talk that long, but I thought I would give you a treat. And maybe, because this is so beautiful, maybe just talk a little while. Off the top of my head, there's a few of the wandering stars, and of course a wonderful moon, who according to mainstream scientists is illuminated by a sun still hidden behind the ball just about to come up. Anyway, I won't belabor that nonsense. Today is the American election, the Trump affair, business. So the next few days are going to be very interesting. UK goes into somewhat full lockdown, seemingly not the children, or the schools, I should say. Don't want to be a speaker of gloom and doom, but it's not looking good for the people at the moment, and it's hard to be certain what to say in terms of how we move forward, where we get to, where we go, what we do, what our response should be. So I think in incredible times it's sorry about the shakiness. Incredible times it's imperative to take care of the basics, and keep moving the systems, that we know for sure they don't want you moving around, they don't want you exercising much, and sun shining, and breathing, and do all of these things. And then be March ready. Be ready for March. The Ides of March, perhaps. Be March ready, because your opportunity to do the best thing for you and your family. I think it will present itself, but you have to be available. You have to be present. You have to be in touch with the earth and with nature, and as much as possible with what's going on in nature. The Trump thing is interesting only in that it's like the acts of a play moving towards their final climax. And we don't know the ending, that's truthful. We don't know the ending, but we can keep telling ourselves this is a play. not get lost in it like some bad dream. I can hold my heart, let that be true, and then trust that the other stuff will work itself out. But your heart can't be still and true and at ease if you're frantically engaged in this political hobgoblinry. So have a super day, a super week, and be in the love and giving kind of heart space, and not the inward and fearful heart space, which is the sort of COVID mantra, really, isn't it? Well, I'm looking to wrap it up, and then all of a sudden she gives me some of this red. Oh, you know how that's going to morph now. And how does that creep under the cloud in the rolling ball scenario? I watch some activists doing some stuff, and I'm like, there is room for activism for sure going forward. A bit like the Jehovah's, in every city there's going to be people trying to alert people to the deceptions of this world. So I'm I'm sure that that in that respect I will hopefully contribute something in future. But, I feel like this is a long plan, a long game. It's not 1 year, 1 season, 1 month. It's a long game, and humanity, us, and I guess it's fair to say that there's not even like a consensus amongst us, whatever us are. So, it is difficult to be certain what is the right course of action, how to proceed. Chatting to Dan about forming communities and some of the hazards of commune lifestyle and habits and controls and so on. It is a conundrum, and if anyone's got any ideas on or examples of what has worked, then fire them into the comments section. I'm going to go and have a chat with Martin Kenny soon and just see how it's going with him, because I know he's got a bunch of people on the land there. And we know that we're all tweaked and tuned by a GMO loving, mind control, MK Ultra loving kind of system of capitalism, materialism, self-interest, and so on. And most of us, a long way from, husbands and stewards of the land, just through lack of practice, not because we don't have the ability. So it is it is an interesting challenge, but I think that one that we must rise to, because, friends, you know, the the honest truth is that I feel that the humanity, the society we had is being imploded, and some people will be able to manage the new version of society that is being introduced. Others won't, and many of those will seek alternatives, and those alternatives are going to be harder and harder to access given the way that the system is seeking to constrain access to land and makes it so difficult to get resources. So, a little tickle in the throat this morning. Anyway, it is a challenge, but it's, we are creators, we are powerful. But I think it's individual. I am thinking this through, and it's good to have conversations about it. But individual, your sovereign space and place should be an important thing, and we have, not through choice, let's be honest, being pushed increasingly into little square mouse houses. People say, oh no, people like living, cheek by jowl. Well, really, that's why the cheapest houses are the ones that are like most condensed, and the most expensive ones typically are, not joined to another building like so many are in the UK. Having a little bit of room between you and your neighbor, even sometimes your brother or sister, you would want some space between them as adults. So yeah, that's all being taken away from us because we've been forced into these little concentration camp cities. But when you're out here and you see the expansiveness of this place, and of course I've traveled many places in the world, and America and Africa and South America. These places are all huge, and could be made vastly rich, but it does require a very different way of thinking about humanity, and I'm not sure yet that we've had the trigger that causes people to go, oof, yes, no, I know this one dude quite well off, as an example, where he would take he could take his business interests perhaps elsewhere, but no, he's still kind of banking on investments in a pharmaceutical company who are making a life-saving vaccine for corona. That could net him a nice return, I suppose. I don't know the minutiae, but when you're backing that, then you're still kind of a long way from realizing what our true course should be, which is not to back these corporations, not to be like reliant on or party to like systems that profiteers. So it's like, imagine you were a shareholder of Barclays Bank, and that was how you earned your income, but you were saying, yeah, the system is terrible, we should change it. Well, the system is predicated hugely on the financial sort of management and intervention of an intermediary control system, a profit making, which we all know, the stock market is a hugely profitable thing for the few that are involved in it, and the farmer who's selling his goods to the consumer is earning less, while the consumer perhaps pays more, not necessarily in price, but in terms of the quality or the interaction with the seller. I know it's a complex thing, and kind of unpicking it and saying, oh, just get aware of the FTSE and the Dow and any kind of corporation is not a realistic expectation at this time in this current paradigm. So I'm not shouting about it. I'm not crying over the nature of it, but I'm just recognizing and calling out the need for people to recognize that a continued investment in, for example, petrochemical pharmacology is like saying, well, you know, it's the medical system is bad, but it's not all bad, rather than going, well, look, it's got some good points, but I'd rather invest my knowledge, power, or energy into natural herbal remedy, solutions and research, and returning it to a trusting nature, and not investing in things that are from the greed paradigm. That I can take some zeros on a computer screen, some numbers, ones and zeros on a computer screen, and throw them at company Zeneca, and each day that little movement that I did of those little zeros nets me a few hundred more zeros each day, and really, it'll just reflect somewhere in the price of the product, or someone will have to pay for that. But for me, I've just sat here and, well, I think nature has a way of offering us a similar kind of experience, and that is where we grow like orange trees and olive trees, and each day, once we've put a little bit of water, instead of ones and zeros, some water and some TLC, we've got, a few months later, we've got a whole bag full of oranges, and those we can trade. But to be doing it with fiat, with money like that, and then it means that the guy downstream is going to have fewer oranges because, say, you dammed up the water, or you charge him for the water a little bit now. Yeah, I think that's where we get it a little wrong, that's where it's all gone a little bit kind of belly up. So, I think that's where we need to think about how we slowly move ourselves individually and perhaps eventually collectively, but certainly individually, towards growing our own oranges, and trying not to dam up the river so that your friends downstream don't go without. It's a tough and tricky thing, isn't it, to migrate from one of those systems to the other, and particularly as we're inheriting land possibly that's had most of the orange trees removed, so starting again does take quite a lot of upfront investment, sweat equity mainly, and time. But I think we have time, and we have plenty of energy when we start to expend it on the land. So, bit by bit, day by day, and we'll see what comes, see what may. Beware the Ides of March, though. Okay, guys, have a super day. Week ahead, and Luke is now here on the bus with us and Alexander, so he made it out. I don't know if the UK is lockdown is going to mean no flights, but we'll see. I've got the fire going. As you can see, there's a little bit of smoke coming off the roof there. Can you see that? Oh, look at that, my little morning fire. There we go. So it'll be fairly warm on the bus now. And I think it's time to go and have a cup of coffee. I've got some gardening in mind, a few other things. Thanks to Jack for driving me down to Porto to pick up Luke the other day. We saw one police checkpoint, but we didn't. It was in the opposite direction, outside of Porto, just outside Porto. Other than that, the roads were almost without traffic. Really, 10 cars in 20 minutes you might see in on the motorways. Anyway, it's all change, isn't it? And we'll see where we end up with all of this craziness. But the sun is beautifully rising on this day, 2nd of November. In fact, yesterday was the 1st of the 11th, and my nephew's birthday on the 1st of the 11th. But my mother died 9 years ago yesterday, and it was a sudden death, and she died as my plane touched down in Johannesburg. Andrea held the phone to my dying mother's ear, and I said goodbye to her as the passengers were collecting their luggage from the overhead compartments. And then still had to find another flight down from Johannesburg to Durban. But my mother's death, or at least the 7 months preceding her death, and then her death itself, was like a huge spur. It was the moment that I stopped digesting mainly mainstream stuff and began looking at things for myself. It did take a few years for that to gather pace to a point where I was totally dedicated to rediscovering as much as I could about our reality. So yeah, it was a significant day for me yesterday, and I thought I'd share that with you. 9 is the number of completion. So my mother is always with me in thought, and